Hey, Shat The Movies listeners, Gene Lyons here with a special Thanksgiving message. We just want to say at this time of year how thankful we are for all of you for listening to the podcast. I was just talking with Big D and Raj and found out we have 485,000 downloads since we started doing this podcast. And it's only possible because of you listening every week, subscribing, giving your money, giving your voicemails, leaving us emails, and just forging these friendships with us, both online and in person. So for a special holiday treat, we bring you an encore presentation of Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. This has been a huge year for us, and we just want to say thank you. Enjoy your time with your friends and family, and thanks for being part of our family. So on behalf of Roger Roper, Carrie Gross, and Big D, Dick Ebert, and the King Bee, Gene Lyons here saying thanks a lot.
Remember when we first met John McClane? Argyle picked him up from the plane and took him down the Nakatomi Tower at the Christmas party. And the terrorists were overzealous, but it was sweet when they killed Ellis. And with a little help from Alan, John McClane kicked out.
Welcome back to Shat The Movies, the podcast where we answer the question, were the movies we loved growing up really that good? Have you ever caught yourself thinking, why don't they make movies like they used to? Can you still remember spending your Friday nights searching for the perfect movie rental at Blockbuster Video? Do you even remember what Blockbuster Video was? If you answered yes and this is the podcast for you, I'm one of your three hosts, Roger Roper, and alongside me are my two co-hosts, Big D, Dick Ebert.
Good evening.
And John Candy Lyons.
How'd you like a mouthful of teeth?
And each week we take a look back in time and decide if our favorite films from our childhood still hold up. Each week the audience selects from, is it 6 now? Is it 6 movie choices?
Yeah, I started adding 6.
All right.
The reason being is that our bad sequels was such a hit that I realized by putting up 4 pretty strong movies, we're guaranteeing that it's going to be a good movie. And some people like us doing bad movies, so we tear them apart.
Yeah.
So by doing 6, you're forced to put some good, some bad, and I've already seen some voting that is fluctuating from what I would normally think.
Yeah, to Gene's point, you're putting us on the super highway to suicide. That's what you're doing. We are living a real life Mystery Science 3000. So the audience selects from now 6 movie choices that we then break out our race car VHS tape rewinders and watch the movie that tallied the highest number of votes. At the end of the podcast, the 3 of us will provide you, the audience, with a number of wipes each movie would need to take to get off your butts. So thank you so much for listening. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and share with a friend. It really helps the podcast grow. Also, check out our other podcast, Shat on TV, where we record and review TV shows such as Westworld, which is coming back soon, guys. Are you excited for Westworld? Taboo, American Gods, and Game of Thrones.
Was that a question or a statement?
It's both. I'm going to ask a question, then I'm going to answer it.
We're gonna edit reactions in post production.
Put it in post. but so it's Thanksgiving week. My father is out here. He's shown up he was towing an El Camino, which showed up at my doorstep. It's Thanksgiving week. And I'm really excited. I got down all my Christmas decorations outside of Halloween. This time of year is my favorite time of year. It kind of starts with putting on costumes and carving pumpkins, and then it just dovetails. This is my favorite time of year. So, Big D, what movie were we supposed to record?
Oh, well, there's nothing more that will put you in the holiday spirit than Serial Killers. Mm-hmm. So it was supposed to be 7.
That's right.
The Brad Pitt, Morgan Freeman, Kevin Spacey movie.
Yeah.
And I said, you know what? It's a great movie, but it doesn't exactly scream Thanksgiving. So I called an audible and I said, good Thanksgiving movies. And it was universally thought that the best that we could do was Planes, Trains, and Automobiles from 90, was it 87?
87. Yeah. This is another John Hughes film. And I think I posted on Twitter that why don't we just fucking rename the podcast Shat on John Hughes movies? Because this is what, the 16th John Hughes movie we've done?
I mean, if we did that, we would give up the chance to name it Shat on Bill Paxton. So we've got to keep a balance here.
No, I don't think we've done that many. We did Home Alone.
Ferris
Bueller.
Breakfast Club.
Oh, and what else? We've done more Paxton.
No, we have not done more Paxton. We've definitely done more John Hughes
Bullshit.
movies.
Twister, Weird Science, Aliens.
Weird Science, John Hughes movie.
Predator 2.
John Hughes
Predator
movie.
2. Shut up.
Produced on a John
It
Hughes.
should have been.
No. Well, the good thing is we're starting to run out of John Hughes movies.
That's
so
right. It's winding down, guys. It's
Yes.
winding down.
Too soon.
Enjoy it while it lasts.
But yeah, no, it's Thanksgiving. There's not a whole lot of Thanksgiving movies. There's a lot of Halloween movies. There's a lot of Christmas movies. There's a lot of February Valentine's Day movies. Not a lot of Thanksgiving movies. We get 2 days off of work. I just don't understand why this isn't more of a feature. Like, why aren't there more Thanksgiving movies? I think there was a turkey animated movie that was pretty good that came out a couple years ago.
Well, Andy Rooney had a theory that he expressed on TV that was basically saying that Thanksgiving is the hardest to commercialize.
Right.
So like Halloween, you got, costumes and trick-or-treating and all that stuff. Christmas, you got presents. Valentine's Day, you got, but Thanksgiving's like you're buying turkey. Like it's food that you would buy anyway. So it's like, it's really hard to commercialize. And then everybody stays home.
That's right.
So it makes sense that there aren't a lot of movies about it because it's just not like a lot of commercial backers don't want to get behind a Thanksgiving movie.
That's right.
I think we need a horror movie around Thanksgiving. Like maybe Black Friday. There it's maybe like Halloween 3. People are out shopping and somehow mayhem, some kind of infection. Like a zombie Black Friday movie.
I think that's called The Division, actually. It's a
I'm pretty
video
sure.
game.
Yeah, it's fantastic. The Division. The game that we told you to keep your Xbox for.
Yeah, but what's that have to do with Black Friday?
Because
get it on Black Friday?
No, it's the actual plot of the video game. Listen, for all you gamers out there, The Division, they release a toxin,
The green fever.
the green fever through money, and people are out shopping on Black Friday, and they all can catch this contagion, which decimates the island of Manhattan. And this special force group, this covert group, is activated called the Division, and you've got to go in there and you've got to restore humanity.
It could be your neighbor. It could be your friend. It could be the guy with like 2 rifles strapped to his back and a giant glowing backpack running down the alley.
That's right. Guess what the Division doesn't have? Loot crates that you have to buy. So go fuck yourself, Battlefront 2. If you've never watched Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, now's your time to pause the podcast and watch the movie. Come back and enjoy it in its full. And it's only going to take you 90 minutes, like most John Hughes movies. But if you haven't watched it, we're going to break down the plot for you according to Wikipedia. Planes, Trains, and Automobiles starts off with easily excitable Neil Page, played by Steve Martin, who is somewhat of a control freak, trying to get home to Chicago to spend Thanksgiving with his wife and his kids. His flight is rerouted to a distant city in Kansas called Wichita. Why is that a distant city? It's just Wichita. Because of a freak snowstorm, and his sanity begins to fray. Worse yet, he is forced to bunk up with talkative Del Griffith, played by John Candy, who he finds extremely annoying. Together, they must overcome the insanity of holiday travel to reach their intended destination. We always ask the question, where were you when you first heard or saw this movie? I'll start with you, Gene Lyons.
I remember seeing Planes, Trains, and Automobiles as a kid, and I was so bored that I don't know if I tuned out or fell asleep. I just remember like blips of the beginning and then nothing after that. So I just remember they're very, very cold, and at some point, John Candy turns into the devil. That literally going in this movie, that's all I remembered.
Yeah, I don't remember it much either, because as a kid, travel isn't one of your concerns. You're with your parents, and you just get in the car, you fall asleep, whatever. Somehow you wake up, you're there. So the idea of being stranded or having to find transportation really didn't excite me. I remember people thinking it was funny. I didn't think it was funny. And I definitely missed the message behind it and the heart that this movie has. So although I've seen it, this time I really had a true appreciation for it.
Yeah, I'm going to categorize this as one of those movies that you watch as a kid with your parents and you have zero idea what's going on. You don't get the references. You don't understand the humor because it doesn't relate to you. But now, being a business traveler like I am, I can see why technology was such technology was so focused on the business traveler, because traveling before, 2000 and we'll say traveling before 1998 must have sucked because there seemed to be no computers, there seemed to be no cell phones. Everything was just a mess.
I'll counter Roger Roper that you could smoke on the flight.
How dare
that
you?
Flight attendants all wore mini skirts,
You could go up to flight attendants and kiss them on the mouth.
Yeah. So, I mean, 6 of one, half a dozen the other.
But they wouldn't honor a first class ticket because there was no computer system to register that you had a first class seat.
No, you're missing. This is a case study, this movie, for why we needed Yelp. Back in the day, you were powerless. If the stewardess told you to fuck off and get off the plane, you're going to lose your first class seat. What were you going to do? Who were you going to complain to?
Where were the cell phones to record the video of you being dragged off?
Dragged off the plane, and then you couldn't go and troll them on Twitter.
Sure.
Like United Breaks Guitars or whatever the hell that guy did.
As a lowly former newspaper editor, there is also the editorial page where you could write in letters to the editor and complain about stuff.
That's exactly what I'm going to do after my rental car, shuttle leaves me where there's no car in my space. Hell no, I just want to get home. Yeah. Yelp allows us to bitch and moan and potentially devastate a company's reputation.
Yeah, but nobody takes Yelp reviews seriously.
Oh, I disagree. There's been a couple lawsuits that'll show you they do.
Big D, play the trailer.
You should see our Yelp page. Fucking, we get torn up.
During holiday travel, some people get delirious. Some get delayed. And some get Del Griffin.
American Light and Fixture, Director of Sales, Shower Curtain Ring Division.
Neil Page got all three.
I was on my way home to spend a nice holiday with my family. Instead, I'm in a motel bed with a stranger.
So instead of Thanksgiving with his family, he's spending 3 days with the turkey.
Two happy clams just whistling down the road.
Flintstones, meet the Flintstones, they're the modern Tony family.
Paramount Pictures presents
Wilma!
Steve Martin.
You ever been to Hawaii?
Yeah.
You see Don Ho while you were there?
See the second show, that's the best one.
Is that right?
Yeah.
John Candy.
Why are you holding my hand? Where's your other hand? Between two pillows. Those aren't pillows.
In a new film by John Hughes. Planes, trains, and automobiles.
See that Bears game last week? Yeah, hell of a game.
Neil Page is an advertising executive on a business trip in New York City trying to return to his family in Chicago for Thanksgiving. After a long meeting ends without a decision, Neil attempts to hail a cab. Del Griffith, a shower curtain ring salesman, has unknowingly taken a taxi that Neil bought from an attorney. The two meet again at LaGuardia Airport where they board a plane to O'Hare. Their plane, however, is diverted to Wichita due to a blizzard in Chicago.
So within the first few minutes, there's that weird 80s silence that I love. You saw it in The Breakfast Club too, but it's not exclusive to John Hughes. There's that focus on the minutia of sound. And in this sense, they've got everybody in this opening boardroom scene. It's largely silent, but it's hilarious in the tension and just the small sounds that you're hearing, paper being flipped, kind of people shifting in their seats. Again, it's showing just great physical comedy over dialogue, really setting the tone for the movie. This is going to be something to watch as well as listen to.
Yeah, but we all work in professions that you a lot of times have to listen to a boss who either talks too much or has no idea what they're talking about. And I can feel the pain of him sitting in that conference room watching the minutes tick away, knowing the flight, he's going to miss it. But, John Hughes likes to reuse the same cast. Did you need to bring in 3 of the most memorable casts from Ferris Bueller, who was the year before? It detracted me from the movie. Right off the bat, we got Ferris's father.
Yeah, and not only that, with Ben Stein showing up, he's not only it's not only Ben Stein again, it's the same character again. Again with Edie McClurg, same character again. So it's not just the same actor, but it's literally they're doing the same thing they were doing in the other movie.
I like how you expect more out of John Hughes, who has admitted he's written scripts on bar napkins. Like, there's not depth to John Hughes. He just was, I believe, John Hughes is the Arby's of filmmaking in the 1980s. Occasionally he'll get something right, like a roast beef sandwich, like The Breakfast Club, or something meaningful, like what else does Arby's have to offer? Their curly fries that are surprisingly good, like Weird Science and Ferris Bueller's Day Off. But then there's a lot of shit that Arby's serves, like, I don't know, their Jamocha shake. like there's not a lot of depth to John Hughes.
Okay, listen.
So the fact that you expect more, he's just an efficient fast food director that could pump out scripts at a cheap cost at 90 minutes. It's what the 80s wanted.
You can make that accusation of most of his movies, but I don't think this is the one that you want to attack for not having heart or quality, because this has to be one of his better.
We also reviewed Home Alone, if you're keeping count.
Oh, fuck you with your one wipe Home Alone.
All right. Something magical happened, though, when John Candy and John Hughes got together.
The two Johns, as I call them.
Yeah. JJ, John and John. But no, when they got, I mean, just magic happened. You see, the minute he's on the screen, you cannot help but start smiling.
Right.
He's reading The Canadian Mounted, which is just great, that romance novel. And then they do the flashback to his surprised face in the cab. And it's 1 second of him just going, oh. And like that cracks me up. And then he goes into just offering foods that he could buy Neil. And he's just sitting there cataloging foods, kind of like Rick Moranis in Ghostbusters. He was born for this role. Heart meets comedy meets annoying nincompoop. Like this is magic.
Nincompoop.
I will say this movie made me long for John Candy. In Hollywood, it's difficult for individuals of size to make it, right? You really have to have that special something. You really have to have a charm about you. You have to have, you have to go over the top like a Melissa McCarthy, something like that. With John Candy, I don't feel like he needed to rely on physical humor to make him. He was just naturally gifted and very charming, and you enjoyed his presence on the scene.
Yeah, he's never trying. On screen, he doesn't seem like he's pushing it. You go and yeah, he's a bigger actor, but he never used his size for a punchline.
Correct.
Whereas Chris Farley, fat guy in a little coat, and he's always like shuffling around. John Candy just seems like a bigger dude, and
he's just a guy. In fact, they never mention his size in this entire in the entire movie. Not once do they mention his size.
No, and how fabulous was that hairdo? I could not get over that like Jerry curl. But I'll tell you, as much as I love John Candy, I fucking hated Steve Martin.
Did you really?
I don't like every one of Steve Martin's movies. He does that like pantomime running he does where he's like, whoa! And he's got his arms flailing like about.
Freddy Krueger chasing Jennifer in the dream.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. And
that's not her name.
It's funny one or two times. But he does it when he's running out of the office. He does it when he's running down the street. And then he's chasing the cab. And then he's in the airport. And each one is too much. I was like, man, try to ground the character a little.
Here's the thing I hate about Steve Martin is I never know how old he is in his films.
Yeah, he's got the Danny Glover thing going on where like he takes his shirt off and you're like, oh, all right.
He's an attractive
but then his
man.
head is old.
That's right. So I had to do some research on this. Guess his age when he filmed this movie or when this movie was released.
32.
36.
41.
Ah, he looks good.
He looks good for 41.
Yeah.
He always looks relatively the same. I don't know if he looked this way in Roxanne, Father of the Bride. He doesn't age. He's one of those guys.
Sure.
But Big D, I agree with you that when he does the running thing, and there's that line that they actually sampled into the soundtrack, which is like, you don't know who you're messing with, or whatever,
Yeah.
That's irritating. But when he brings it down to the subtle, when it's a one-on-one conversation, there are a few guys in the business that are better.
Oh, God, yeah.
I want to get back to the task at hand, or the question, the major plot of this movie is that he's a business traveler trying to get back home. Have either of you ever been in a professional setting or away from home right before the holiday and been trying to like rush through a meeting so that you can get to a plane to get home? Have you ever been in that situation?
Well, I haven't been in that situation from a business standpoint, but recently in October, I was coming back from New Orleans, and I arrived at the airport 2 hours ahead of time and got stuck behind the New Kids on the Block cruise. So the New Kids on the Block cruise got into port, and the buses brought all of the New Kids on the Block fans, thousands of them, back to the New Orleans airport, to Louis Armstrong Airport, to fly out. Yeah. So there was a 2-hour delay just to get your bag checked to get onto your flight. And so I missed my flight. I had to stay overnight in New Orleans. And the last time I just flew out for business out of Nashville, the flight attendant, as I was walking, I tried to take the first seat available because I just don't care. I fall asleep immediately. And she tried to wave me off. She said, "Don't come back here." She's waved me off. And I was like, well, what the hell's the problem? She goes, "Oh, there's two really big guys back there. That's the only seat back there." And I go, "Well, that's the only seat there is, so I got to take it." My ass did not touch the seat. These guys were so big that I actually hovered. Yeah. And then oddly, what was really weird is I still fell asleep immediately and I woke up with an erection.
Yeah.
So it was like I'm not having a good run this year.
Yeah, usually they charge extra for that.
Why is it not a good run? Sounds like a fun trip.
So, what about you, Big D? Have you ever been in a situation where you've been trying to get home? Or you just got back from Brazil.
My wife and I have a habit of just trying to get to the airport like almost the exact minute you're supposed to. So we were flying to Rio maybe 5 years ago. And international, you need to be a minimum of 2 hours.
Yeah.
We got stuck in traffic in Orlando and walked up to the counter at 1 hour and 59 minutes. And this was 2 days before Christmas. They'd already given away our seat.
Oh, shit.
Yep. So little helpful hint out there. Get there early around the holidays. Yeah. So it took us 3 days to get another flight out, and we missed half the days we were going to spend in Rio.
Yeah, no, I travel quite frequently for work, and I'm a little bit of an airplane snob, much like Steve Martin's character, where I don't like to talk to people. And the move that I use is the earbuds in the ear. Do you guys pull this move? I kind of pull this move anytime I'm in public. Is you put the earbuds in the ear, you don't have anything on, but it's kind of like the social
do not disturb.
Yeah, it's the do not disturb sign on your hotel room. That's exactly what it is.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm adamant, and I've actually found myself buying increasingly large headphones, and now I actually wear my Audio-Technica monitors that we use for the podcast.
Right.
They're not a sponsor, by the way, but we'd love to have them.
Yeah.
To really signal, like, please no.
Yeah, if listen, I will purposefully avoid flights that I can get an exit row, first class, or A15 or lower on Southwest. That's how much of a travel snob I am right now. But I have status on all those flights, so that's what happens. But anyway, back to the movie. Steve Martin and John Candy's character, which, by the way, Del and do you remember Steve's character? Neil. Okay, Del and Neil. Resort to various means and try to reach Chicago, but one attempt after another is defeated. Forced to share a room in a cheap motel on the first night in Wichita, Neil loses his temper with Del and puts him on blast. Del regards Neil as a cold cynic and says that he likes himself and that his wife and customers like him as well. Neil calms down and the two men go to sleep. During the night, their cash is stolen by a burglar.
So, do you think that there's a problem at home with Neil? Because either his wife is just not that bright or she thinks he's cheating. So, like, I know Neil mentions he's away from home a lot, but he calls her and she's like, what does Wichita have to do with why you're not home and snowing in O'Hare?
So I took that as a play off of Neil's tendency to be a control freak. I think his life, his children, his wife, his home, it's all very orderly. It's all very, like, there are no imperfections in his life. And therefore, any hiccup like that is seen as a major factor. That's why she's crying when he gets home. It's that she's not accustomed to anything going awry.
Yeah, this is, I think this might be the reason I might have been incepted as a child to never get married and have children, because I would have had to deal with situations like this with Neil. Like if I miss a flight, if I have to change a flight, or you know how sometimes airplanes and flights will ask you, they get overbooked, so they ask people if they would kindly step aside and pay you $500 for that. I'm the first one to raise my hand because guess what? I don't have a family. I'm not married. I don't have kids. I don't have to do any of that
you got
shit.
Nobody at home missing you.
My schedule is uber flexible.
This is the same guy who on Facebook is like, love being in Chicago, but miss my doggies. Oh, my boobers. My dragons.
My dragons. So they're obviously wanting us to really hate Del. They want us to fucking despise him. He's annoying.
You think they want us to hate Del?
Hold on. Okay. Del is smoking in the hotel room.
Uh-huh. Which was perfectly allowable in 1987.
It was not, because Neil makes a comment.
In fact, I would argue it's still allowable in Wichita, Kansas.
So he's using the bathroom sink to wash his socks. He spills beer on the bed. He's cracking his knuckles. He's reading a fucking book by candlelight. He's hawking loogies. He's scratching his balls. They're wanting us to really not like this guy.
I don't see what's any wrong with it. Those are the first things I do immediately when I get into a hotel room.
But not with a stranger, not with an adult man.
Yeah, there's no consideration being displayed on his, and it goes back to the airplane too, where he's like, "Oh, like I see you want to be left alone. I get it," and then it just keeps continuing talking. But I found it very cathartic when Neil just laid into him, and when he said that line, he said, "Everything is not an anecdote. You have to discriminate. You choose things that are funny or mildly amusing or interesting." I wish I could say that to, and this is honest, about a third of the people I talk to on a daily basis.
But dude, you said you liked it. He was raw. I mean, this is where, if you want to say that, Neil's got a mean streak because it borders on he's angry and he wants to lay into him. I actually thought that John Candy's character might cry. And this was where I started to realize John Candy might have some more acting chops than I expected or gave him credit for.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, he does. Well, listen, I've seen Gene in real life go off on someone. I might have been the recipient of Gene's anger, and I felt a lot of the same way. And it's like, hey man, I'm just like trying to like have fun. Like our mutual friend, the King Bee, one Halloween, Gene went off on him, and like King Bee, I literally thought he was going to cry into his Cornish pasty.
But wait, there's a difference of like being mad and kind of ripping into somebody. But do you pull out their most intimate weaknesses that he's going after those little?
Yeah, that's it. That's Gene's move. That's what he goes for. That's the first thing he pulls out in his arsenal.
So Gene right now is taking mental notes of our weaknesses in case he ever wants to just thrash us.
I mean, it's not conscious, but there is a subroutine somewhere back there that's doing it because it just comes out. It's like, like did Mozart spend all day thinking about music? Well, he probably did, actually. That's a terrible point. Exactly. What I want to know is every movie we've watched in the 80s, like every 80 movie, how do they not know what a robber looks like? Like, why does every robber in every movie look like he stepped off a Motley Crue video? Like, if you go to Predator 2, that was in the 90s even, Crocodile Dundee, like all these movies, whenever there's hoods and thugs, Batman, they're just kind of like, it's a guy in a leather hat with like long blonde hair and a switchblade.
So who was that? Just a regular burglar? Was it someone who worked for the hotel? How did he gain access to the room?
He had a switchblade. He literally had a switchblade.
So he just
kind of
popped the window or whatever. I don't know. Switch talk can't.
No, he had a switchblade and he stuck it in
he picked the lock with the switchblade because that's what you do.
Again, I feel like John Hughes writing stuff on receipts that he gets at the bar where he's drinking and coming up with those. They're like, listen, we need another movie, John. And he's like, great. I've got this outline on the back of
my coaster.
Of my coast. That's exactly right. Well, the following day, they attempt to reach Chicago by train, but the locomotive breaks down, leaving the passengers stranded in a Missouri field. After reaching Jefferson City, Dell sells his remaining shower curtain rings to buy bus tickets, but neglects to tell Neil that they are only valid to St. Louis. Upon arrival, Neil again offends Dell over lunch, and the two part ways. Neil attempts to rent a car, but finds the space at the distant rental lot empty. He treks back to the rental car desk and unleashes a profanity-laced verbal assault.
God, that is my nightmare. That you're going to get stuck. Because a lot of times, like the holidays, when you park your car at the airport, and I don't feel like spending $20 a day, so you take that long-term parking. And my fear is always you're going to get stuck out there. And like him, you got to walk across the highway, one of the runways. That sucked.
Wait a minute. You're still parking at the airport? It's 2017.
It all depends. Like this time, because it's only 3 days, yeah, we will park at the airport because it's easier. But we Ubered it to anything longer.
Making sure.
No.
But again, that the entire time I'm thinking throughout this entire movie, this movie does not work in today's age. You can't remake Planes, Trains, Automobiles. I mean, unless you call it like, what,
Plane.
Tommy Boy?
No, it would be called Plane.
Plane?
Because you would have your app out and you'd be rebooking the flight.
Right, exactly. But like, all right, so this was my favorite part of the movie. When Dell, he's showcasing his salesman skills. It's showing you that he's not just a schlub that washes his underwear in sinks, but he's got some real skill. But it also introduced the character that I wanted to see a lot more of, and I forget the actor's name, but it's the brother. The character that he's playing is the brother of the friend that's going to get them on the train.
It's the son. It's the son of the guy.
It's the son of the guy. That's it. It's
Owen.
the son of the guy.
Yeah, it's Owen.
Owen. That guy's my favorite character in this entire movie.
What's great about Owen is that when he shows up in that truck, his presence is so startling, and the way that the scene is shot, that you don't even notice the wife and the child in the truck until like attention is called to them. And again, like, you're going to pick up two dudes. Why would you take your wife and child in the truck? And then why would you encourage them to move a heavy trunk for you?
Dude, but he's dipping, and instead of just spitting, he's got like some kind of like a like a gag reflex that I want a movie with him. Fuck Cousin Eddie in Christmas Vacation. I want Owen's movie.
Oh, Owen is the best. He's like 20 seconds of screen time. He makes the movie.
Or his wife.
Yeah, he drops that line. She's short and skinny, but she's strong.
Dude, and she comes out of that truck like Ronda Rousey. She's looking to just like squat that fucking trunk.
They're trying to do the almost they're trying to do the gentlemanly thing, but like, no, we got this heavy trunk. Which, by the way, was that ever explained in the entire movie?
That's everything he owns.
Okay, got it. All right,
I got some dark possibilities when we get to the end.
Jesus Christ. It's the last traveler he traveled with.
It might have something to do with Seven. What's in the box?
What's in the box? But what's the line that Owen says about
her first baby come out sideways? She didn't cry or nothing.
My dad and I were watching this movie together on the couch, and he and I both cracked up, and like literal tears were almost coming out. That's the part that I really laughed in this movie. There was that and the devil scene, which we'll get to. Those are the two parts that I really enjoyed.
Like when I'm editing the podcast, I don't want us. I'm cognizant of us dropping F-bombs. I don't mind saying fuck, but it shouldn't be just saying fuck to say it.
Yeah.
That scene with Neil when he snaps at the rental car agent Grace from Ferris, that has to be the best use of fuck in a movie. There is maybe, I didn't even count them because I knew Gene would shit on me for counting them, but I think there was probably 15 fucks. And he ends it with, I want a fucking car right fucking now. You're knocking his writing. I think this is the best use of fuck in any film we've seen.
Well, no, I'm not knocking John Hughes' writing, because have you ever been in a situation where you're at your precipice, right? Like normally I'm Del. Normally I'm cheerful. I try and use my natural charm to get something. And we've all been, I think everyone should be in a service industry type job for no less than 2 years, because it truly will give you insight into how people are just shitty to people, like no matter what. So I think we've all collectively, all three of us, have worked a service industry job. Have you ever had a situation where someone has done that to you, or you have done that to someone? Like where someone has completely not deserved it, or whatever had like pushed you to the limit?
No, but I was a server at Olive Garden for about 3 weeks. And old people, a lot of times old people get grumpy and pushy. And if you ordered a decaf, you might have gotten full leaded. But that's about the extent of my...
That was the thing?
Yeah, because I knew I was going to keep them up all night. Yeah, but now in the movie, they're starting to gel. The buddy comedy's working. But I had a hard time separating the fact that I knew the twist ending. So I found myself, and hopefully everybody who's listening now has seen it, I found myself sympathetic to Del, and I don't know that I felt that the first time. Could you watch this without feeling sad for Del every minute he's on screen?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the movie does its own job, even without the twist ending, of making him a likable character. I think he's a very well-balanced character where you're like, he's so funny, and he makes you laugh, and he's like, he's not malicious in any way. He's just kind of a fuck-up. And so I feel like I already had an affinity for him. The twist ending didn't really make a difference the way I felt about him. I don't think in any circumstance, though, was he supposed to be just purely annoying or that you were supposed to hate him.
Yeah. I think we can all find ourselves in Del, right?
No.
Really?
No.
No, not at all.
So
I see a lot of Neil, but not a lot of Del.
You don't find yourself, who would you identify yourself with, Big D? Are you a Neil or are you a Del?
Fucking Neil.
Are you really?
Yeah, I'm an asshole a lot of times, and I shouldn't be.
Yeah.
I'm working on that.
Well, in desperation, Neil attempts to hail a taxi to Chicago, but insults the dispatcher, who then attacks Neil. Del arrives in time to rescue Neil with his own rental car while driving. They find themselves arguing again. The situation is made worse when Dell nearly gets them killed on a freeway after driving in the wrong direction and driving them between two semi-trailer trucks. Then Dell's carelessly discarded cigarette sets fire to the rental car. Neil initially gloats over Dell's predicament, thinking that he is liable for the damage to the car. However, Neil's amusement turns to anger when Dell reveals he used Neil's credit card to rent the car after their cards were accidentally switched.
Okay, you've got two comedy powerhouses in this movie, John Candy and Steve Martin. And I don't feel like they're trying to one-up each other in this movie. I think they play off each other very, very well. They're two different styles of comedy entirely. John Candy pantomiming The Mess Around, the song The Mess Around, where he's doing the saxophone, he's playing the piano on the dashboard of the car. I'm sorry, it's more entertaining than the entire Blues Brothers movie. Like, you can see the saxophone. You can see, like, he just has this amazing ability to play off of, it's just a song on the radio and one man performing while the other guy is pretending to be asleep. If somebody didn't laugh at that scene, they've just got something's wrong with you, man.
Is Dell a good guy? You're saying he's flawed and we think he's this buffoon. That credit card that he got by mistake and then rents a car with it.
Sure.
He's a bit of a dick. He's not this good-hearted, nice guy.
He's going to pay him back the money?
Fuck you. No way.
Whoa. You're saying if you were stranded, some guy just went off on you, you split up, and then you're like, oh shit, I got a credit card. I don't have, hold on. You don't have any cash, and you're like, well, I got the...
No. They parted ways on good terms at this point. They had the scene in the diner. He said, hey, let's split up. We're going to go our own way.
You call that on good terms? He was heartbroken.
What? They're not fucking dating. They're travel buddies.
Dell just wants Dell just wants a friend. Who doesn't want a friend? I've been in a situation. I've been like Dell, where people are like, I don't want to be your friend anymore.
And then you steal their credit cards and go rent a car
and
and
crash.
crash.
Steal his credit card?
He didn't steal it. It was just like I'm with Gene. It's kismet. It's it's fate.
I'd also like to point out that there's no cell phones. He can't call him up and be like, hey, I got your credit card.
Yeah.
So presented with what he's got in his pocket, no cash, a credit card. He's like, okay, I'll rent the car. I'll pay him back later.
That's right.
He's not going to pay him back.
I would do this. I would do the same thing.
And it's not like you ran over his head.
Well, so many times we find flaws in movies and we say how unrealistic something is. I did not question once how ridiculous that car was. That car would not have been running, but
the Chrysler LeBaron.
Yeah, I'm bought in. I don't care. It's great. The characters are working.
Do you?
Oh, I totally do.
This is where the movie derails from a somewhat realistic into a satire, almost cartoon. But like you said, I almost don't care because again, this is one of the funnier parts is when they realize that they're going the wrong way on the interstate, which a lot of movies have done. But then they're screaming at each other, and then you see, like, for some reason the skeleton and then the devil. Like, that's hilarious. That was enjoyable.
I try to put myself on set for that one too, because they're like, all right, so here's the thing, the car is going to go between two semi trucks. Okay, sparks are going to fly, parts are going to fly off. Okay, now cut. All right, now John, we're going to need you to go and we're going to dress you up as a devil and then put you back in the driver's seat. Wait, what? Yeah, no, it's gonna be great. It's gonna be great. Trust me.
In like a onesie, in like a red onesie.
Yeah, like a devil onesie. And how long is that gonna be on screen? About half a second.
Half a second.
Cool. But you know what? It made the difference. It took this movie to another level.
It really did. It was. I almost feel like they did that in reshoots, because had they shot those scenes and left them in for more than half a second, it wouldn't have worked.
But here's the thing: doesn't it feel to you? This is how I felt. Is that the movie was shot in 1987. This idea came from 2007.
Dude, and the best is John Candy's like, ha, 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 yeah. And he's got the pitchfork. So it's even that he's got the devil outfit on.
Well, it's kind of like, it's almost, it's very similar to Pee-wee's Big Adventure.
Yes.
Yeah.
I would say, like, if there's any comparison to that scene, which, by the way, the rest of the movie is not like this scene at all, but I think it stole a little bit from Pee-wee's Big Adventure.
But the difference is Pee-wee's Big Adventure is, like you suggested, Raj, is surreal throughout. This movie is completely real, and then this happens.
And that line, "you're going the wrong way," has to be a top 20 movie quote. You say that's almost anyone, they won't know much more about this movie, but they'll know that line. Fantastic. But
Wait a minute. How would he ever know where we're going? Not you're going the wrong way. It's how would he know where we're going? That's the line.
No, but the guy is yelling, "You're going the wrong way."
Right.
And then they're pantomiming drinking. But didn't we see half of these scenes in the road trip from Tommy Boy?
Yeah, but Tommy Boy's after this. Tommy Boy is
That's what I mean. Didn't Tommy Boy steal this? You got the fat guy, you got the skinny guy, you got the road trip. The car does that 360 spin on the highway. The car,
he's a natural salesman.
Yes, doesn't the car set on fire too?
That sounds right.
There's a deer.
And Tommy Boy. Yeah, there's a deer in the back seat. Was
Tommy Boy made in the 90s, right?
Yeah, it was like 90.
We should do a Chris Farley. Guys,
it was
listen,
95.
If you're listening to this and you want us to do a Chris Farley movie, write in. Yeah, tweet at us at Shat The Movies.
Yeah, I don't think we'll be kind to it after seeing this.
We'll do a scene by scene comparison of this is Plane, Trains, and Automobiles. Well, with his credit cards destroyed in the car fire, Neil sells his designer watch to a motel clerk to pay for a room for himself. Dell is broke and attempts to sleep in his car, which has lost its roof in the fire. Neil eventually feels sympathy for Dell and invites him into the cold and snowy night. Neil relaxes as the two consume Dell's collection of airline liquors and laugh about the events in the past 2 days. The pair resume driving to Chicago the next morning, but their badly damaged car is impounded by the police. They finally make it to Chicago 2 days late in the back of a refrigerator truck.
Okay, this scene made me embarrassed as a veteran drinker and an avid drinker. I can't believe I've never had an airline liquor and Doritos party. Like, I want to do this, guys. Like, I want to just get an assortment of little liquors and maybe watch the movie and have like a drinking game. It'd be wonderful. But just, that around the world trip, like a little tequila, some vodka, some whiskey. It sounds rum.
You mentioned $7 for the 2 subs in Point Break. $42 or actually $17 the wristwatch for a hotel room, endless bar and candy snacks. It's quite a bargain.
No. Those were Dell's.
Yeah. Dell had those, I assume, in his trunk.
That's what's in the trunk.
That's right.
No, I thought he took it from the hotel room.
No, it's his own collection from traveling. It's all of his airline liquors.
Yeah, that's right. Did John Candy get the acting job of the Jamaican bobsled team in Cool Runnings from his impersonation of Bob Marley?
That makes no sense. He's not Jamaican in Cool Runnings.
I know, but somehow they were like, listen, you did a Jamaican accent once in one of your movies, right? You could totally be the Jamaican bobsled coach.
His Jamaican's worse than yours.
Yeah, I do.
How dare you, sir? How dare you? I taught you how to speak Jamaican.
Mixed in with these scenes that are obviously funny and they're meant to kind of disarm you. John Candy is skilled enough that he's got like a couple moments in between the laughter and the joking where he shows a depth talking about their families and, at least you have a woman who loves you. There's a look in his eye that I was like, holy shit, how did I never catch this before? This performance, right. People think it's funny, but how do you be funny but still show that there's something else going on in there? The second time through, the pain that he's feeling, that he doesn't just break down and cry. I have so much more respect for John Candy after this movie.
Did John Candy do any dramatic roles? Was he?
I think wasn't his last one. Hold on.
His last movie was Wagons East, so no.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
No, it's Canadian Bacon was the last one.
No, he died on the set.
Yeah, Canadian Bacon was.
He died on the set of Wagons East.
Well, he was in JFK.
Right.
I don't know, but I mean, if he didn't, it's a waste.
Yeah, he truly was a special talent. I agree with you. John Candy makes this movie, especially, and in fact, I think it's easier for the audience to associate themselves with Dell than it is for someone like a Steve Martin character who's truly an asshole, even though his predicament has caused him to be this way. To then do an about face at the end and feel sympathy for him and feel happy that his family is around, because you know he's not a good father to those kids. Those kids are like on edge the entire time. Yeah,
the kids, you could tell that they're not the first thing in his mind.
No,
but thank God, like the scene where the cop pulls over them in the burned out carcass of a car, and I was thinking, there's no way this cop lets him go or they talk their way out of it. I was like, thank God when when Del tries to talk his way out of it. Do you know how fast you were going? He's like, well, my speedometers they're actually melted. And he tries to convince the cop that the car is safe for highway traffic.
Right.
Thank God he didn't let them keep going.
But again, you talk about we've talked about the dramatic chops of John Candy. In the delivery of those lines with the lesser skilled comedic actor, it wouldn't have worked. The fact that he's like, oh, well, officer, I've melted, I can't really see the gauge because it's melted. And he's really truly trying to get out of it. And I thought it was great. Mike McKean, it's Michael McKean, right? That's the actor who's playing the cop. He's also on Better Call Saul right now. Very cool cameo. But we're nearing the end of the movie. The two part ways at the LaSalle Van Buren CTA station when they get to Chicago while riding the train, the L train, which, by the way, if you're in Chicago, go to Midway, catch the L train. It's the easiest way to get in Chicago. Neil remembers some of the cryptic comments that Del made about his wife during the journey and realizes that Del may be alone for the holiday. He returns to the station, sees Del sitting by himself, and asks him why he has not gone home. Del reveals that he does not have a home. His wife died 8 years earlier. Neil returns home to his family and introduces him to Del, whom he has invited to Thanksgiving.
A quick point of housekeeping here. If you go to Midway, you've only got the orange line to ride, and that's not a 24-hour line, so make sure that you get there during hours of operation. Also, it's a bit farther out from the city, and you're going through the south side, so just word of warning, keep your bags close to you. Now, if you go to O'Hare, you can take the blue line. That's a 24-hour line. It goes straight in through the north side. It's a much nicer ride. Anyway. Getting back to the movie. First of all, Chicago looks beautiful in this movie, as John Hughes tends to do. But when they cruise into town in the refrigerator truck, Chicago just looks gorgeous, that skyline. And the only problem I had this in the entire movie, other than the soundtrack, was this flashback scene. I felt like Steve Martin totally blew it. Like, he's making these kind of faces when he's thinking back. And why couldn't they just have him stare forward blankly?
Dude, and that also goes back to my original thought of not being a happy marriage. In those flashbacks, Neil thinks of all his interactions with Del, and he smiles. He's having a good time. Then he thinks of his kids' faces. Not once does he think of his wife.
He thinks of his wife first.
No, he does not. He does not. He thinks of his interactions with Del, and they're giggling, they're on the bed, they're thinking of all the fun times. Then he thinks of each one of his kids one by one, but never does he see his wife.
Yeah, I think this movie's ahead of its time. What if this entire movie, the original ending, was that Steve Martin's character discovers that he's in love with Del?
No, that doesn't work because they both like Chicago Bears football. My hands between two pillows.
But I want to agree that the last 2 minutes seemed a bit rushed.
Yeah.
We go immediately from the reveal to walking down the street with the box.
Right. But this is the problem with John Hughes movies. He doesn't know how to end a movie effectively. Think of every John Hughes movie, with the exception of maybe Home Alone, which is why Home Alone is a one-white movie. Home Alone has a definitive ending. Right? Every other John Hughes movie just sort of stops, or in the case of Ferris Bueller, they have to tell the audience that the movie is over.
And yet, ironically, Home Alone's the one that had two sequels. The other ones didn't. Getting back to complaints about the soundtrack, I started noticing the opening notes of Every Time You Go Away,
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, oh, no. And I'm like, the only thing worse than this is an instrumental version. And I was like, no, actually, the only thing worse than this is a vocal version with some other lady singing it.
Not getting the actual license to the song?
Yeah. But then something strange happened is as I'm groaning and rolling my eyes about that, I started to kind of tear up, and I realized I really miss John Candy. Like, he did that fat man role with so much heart, and then I started flashing back to Uncle Buck and Cool Runnings and Spaceballs. I was like, I fucking love this guy.
I tried to get my wife to watch this movie with me, and I showed her the trailer, and she's like, I am not watching that. So she started, working in the office, and I'm watching it alone on the couch. And this is the first movie in 51 that we've done. I'm not embarrassed. I teared up.
Right.
And I don't know if it's partially because I'm a father and it was just the thought of him coming home to his kids and the family and how we don't appreciate those around us. We take for granted. I wasn't full-blown crying, but this is the first movie that's hit me that made me actually feel something and get emotional.
So I think what triggered it for me was the fact that the formality of referring to Neil's wife by their last names as Mrs. Page there was a dignity to it that in the end of it, that they saw him as a complete human being and respected him at that level. And I think that's what really brought it home for me and just crushed it.
And you hope that the message at the end of this is that Neil comes away with it caring about his family more. You know, like I left once the movie was over, I walked to my wife and I gave her a hug. Because a lot of times I end up spending too much time at work, and you realize in the end, what's the trade-off really for that? So everyone should try to spend more time with family. And after that, it made me appreciate her a bit more. But there's so many questions at the end of this. I need to know, what the fuck happens to Del?
He and Neil leaves his wife and his kids, and he and Del move in together.
Okay, but I do have to ask, and I think Big D, this will tee off some dark thoughts in your head. But so Marie, Del's wife, she's been dead for 8 years.
Yeah.
Why is Del headed back to Chicago? Like, what is there for him? If it's not his home, why make the effort? And the only thing I could come up with from my end was, you know, what he said when he was talking to his dead wife. He said, you know, essentially that somebody came along that that kind of changed his life, and when he's talking about Neil. But he didn't know that when he started his journey to Chicago.
He did. He saw him in line and was attracted to him. Guys, it's true love. This movie is Love Actually.
No, not Love Actually. This could be. Have you ever? What movie? Did you ever see the? You'll love this, Raj, because you do fan edit videos. Somebody took the Sleepless in Seattle trailer and made it a horror film. And it's pretty believable.
Sure.
This movie could have had a darker side, that if Del was unstable and just picked out Neil, kind of stalked him, stole his credit card, got him home. We don't even know what's in the box. His wife could be in the box.
Mm-hmm. No, I could see that.
You know, her bones. And I want to believe that something good happens to Del, but how long does Neil and his family let him stay with him? A week or two? Before he's washing his underwear in the sink? What do you do with Del?
He becomes Uncle Del. And then eventually he receives a nickname.
Uncle Buck.
Uncle Buck, and then you make a spinoff, also directed by John Hughes.
Well, also, wasn't there the uncle in Home Alone? The one who got the wet bandits to go actually commit the crime? That was supposed to be John Candy as well.
No, that was a different uncle. John Candy in Uncle Buck, he's the polka player.
No,
Polka.
No, that's in Home Alone.
Yeah, I'm saying Home Alone.
That's what he's talking about.
Oh, okay. You know, it was the dick uncle. It was the one we didn't like.
Look at you. Look at what you did, you little jerk.
Yeah.
That's not John Candy.
Yeah, but as much, Raj, as you talk about the problems with it, are you telling me in the end you didn't feel it tugging on your heartstrings a little bit?
No, I really I enjoyed the movie. I thought it was good. I don't think it's great, but I think it's good. But listen, now's the time where we break out our Shat meter.
Hold on, Raj. Would you have felt different if 8 years ago Del had lost his 2 dogs?
What kind of dogs?
Small dogs, his little dragons.
Yeah, probably.
So you do have a heart.
When it comes to dogs. Yeah, no, this is the reason I don't have family, guys. This is the reason I don't have someone to come home to, when I travel. It's the only way that you can be a business person.
Hold on. Don't you live with somebody?
I do, but like
she'll be happy to hear this podcast.
She doesn't listen. Now's the time of the podcast where we break out our Shat meters and tell you how many wipes this movie would take to get off your butt. 0 wipes is the equivalent of a first-class ticket on TWA, landing in Chicago in time to meet your Thanksgiving fatherly duties, like going to your daughter's pageant and eating at home with your in-laws. 5 wipes is ending up with a slovenly, fat shower ring salesman who washes his underwear in the sink. That's the rating. 0 is bad, 5 is good. Gene, how many wipes would you give this movie?
For me, I got to say this is the best 80s comedy I remember seeing. The soundtrack.
What?
Yeah. Yeah, I think it is. But it wasn't perfect. And here's what was wrong with it. The soundtrack was awful. There were gratuitous kid shots. I could not stand the kids. I guess Joey from Blossom.
That haircut's terrible.
Is in this movie?
Terrible.
And then, of course, the CTA flashback scene, Steve Martin's acting was atrocious. So I think those things added up, take away from it. And so I'd say that near perfect, but this is a 1 wipe movie for me.
Big D.
I can't believe I'm going to agree with Gene on this one.
What?
I got to give it a one wipe. I mean, John Candy's performance alone, I think, is worth probably a 1.5. It's understated. It's convincing. But think about the two characters, Neil and Del. You should hate both of them. And we start off really not liking either one of the characters. By the end, you're pulling for them. God, the movie made me cry. Like, how am I going to give it? It even though the ending could have been better, it still was mission accomplished. It made me, for that moment, and really take a second to think about my family and to try to put things in perspective. One is fair. I'm looking back at what I've given some other ones. Ferris Bueller, I did 0.75. Coming to America was 1.5. I think as a comedy, it's right in that mix. And you got to think it's definitely one of the best of the 80s.
Both of you are nuts. I don't even know how we end up in the same podcast. I was going to give this movie, I really was going to give this movie 3.5 wipes, just below average, until I realized, and until it was just brought to my attention, that Joey Lawrence was in this movie. So therefore, I'm going to give it a 3-wipe movie. I don't think it's great. I don't think it's bad. I do believe it's the best Thanksgiving 80s movie comedy out there that, you know, has John Candy and Steve Martin. I thought the acting was good. I thought the script was a little weak. There are moments, there are scenes. It feels like one big, long SNL skit to me. It's not really a cohesive script. There's really not an ending. They just sort of arrive at home, and it's okay. It's not bad. It's not great. It's 3. It is the perfect average movie that is perfectly timed for you to be able to watch it with your father on the couch in time to record this podcast, which is what I did today. So it's a 3-wipe movie. If we were to add up our scores, 3, 1, and 1, and then divide by 3, what does that give us?
That is a 1.6 repeating average.
1.6 repeating. Big D, where does that put it?
1.6. Is it 1.6 even?
1.6
repeating.
Yeah.
Okay, so that now puts it in the 16 spot. It is tied with Gremlins. It is above Who Framed Roger Rabbit and below The Thing.
This system works, guys. The system works.
The system works. That feels right.
The Thing is a better movie.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's right. It's right about Gremlins. I think Gremlins is a better movie. I think
it's a little bit better than. Well, it's a little bit better than Beverly Hills Cop.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
There is some method to the madness.
That's right. Well, now's the time where we talk about our shout-outs and what movie we're going to be doing next. I'm sorry. I almost called you Big Gene. Gene, what is a shout-out?
Raj, a shout-out is a way the listeners can show their support for Shat The Movies. You just go to shatthemovies.com, scroll down, and you'll see a slider that comes out. It says hello, and it wants your name. You give it your name, and we'll read it right here on the podcast every week. This week's shout-outs come from Jake the Lawyer.
He's the worst. He'll steal $75 for you and take your taxi.
Jimmy.
Like a condom, like a Jimmy. Jimmy is a condom. Also, it's slang for prophylactic.
Kyle Brad.
Poor guy. He's got. Is that your first name and your last name? I feel sorry for you.
Sam and Uncle Shower.
Listen, God. I had an Uncle Shower and things did not end well as a child.
That should be a movie or a band title.
That's right.
Robert Moray York Goldney.
Now you're just making shit up. That's not your name.
Grace.
Oh, it's your sister-in-law.
My sister-in-law, yeah.
Eric.
Who doesn't like an Eric?
Blue Ridge Kids Forever Winners Chimes.
I believe they performed at my 5th grade assembly hall.
Sean O'Keefe.
Good Irish lad.
Liz.
I dated a Liz. My parents hated her, but man, she was crazy in bed.
A. Finn.
Is that like just a singular Finn? Like, I don't understand what that is. Or it could be from Star Wars, right?
First initial A, last name Finn.
Yeah, A. Finn.
Jimbo.
We know a Jimbo, don't we, Big D? We know a Jimbo.
I don't know, it was 15 years ago.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Chase.
I prefer Bank of America.
Lorenzo D.W. Felice.
Next time we're in Italy, we're going to look you up.
Johnny D.
We know what that D stands for.
Amrat.
We know you are. We know you're a rat.
Dan Welch.
Like the grape juice.
Crash Test Dummy.
Mm-hmm.
You realize that half the people who listen to this podcast will have no idea that reference.
It's all right.
Kids, go Google
90,
Crash Test Dummy.
Listen,
it was a
are you
song.
kidding me? It's from the 90s. It's from the 90s. What is this podcast? We
Guy had
reviewed
3
90s
testicles.
movies. That's right. Did he?
Did?
That was the rumor. Yeah, third testicle. That's why his voice was so low. Greg.
Hey, Greg.
Leanne Bachschall from Whitley Bay.
I feel like Whitley Bay, there's something to it if Leanne's gonna make sure that she wants us to know that she's from there.
And last but not least, Alex Golden Boot.
I bet he's really good at soccer.
And that's it. That's all we got for the shout outs. Thank you everyone for writing in for your shout outs. If you'd like to hear your name on the podcast and Raj react to it, go to shatthemovies.com and scroll down, put your name right in there, and we'll get it on the pod.
Big D, what movie are we doing next?
We already talked about it. 7. Where were you?
Oh, we're doing 7.
So people were concerned recently on social media that you could get over your
right.
Kevin Spacey bias.
I can, and I'll tell you why. My father just discovered Netflix. And so because we're cord cutters here at the Roger Roper household, it's like putting on television when I have to leave the room. He doesn't understand because I've got like a Mac Mini. Anyway, it's a whole setup that my father doesn't understand because there's no remote involved. So when I leave the room, it's like turning on television for a toddler. So I'm like, well, Dad, I got to go record the podcast. What do you want me to put on for you? And he's like, well, you don't have TV. I guess I'll watch Netflix. I'm like, well, what do you want to watch? He's like, well, I've been watching this show called House of Cards. And I'm like, oh, that's great. So I watched a few minutes of House of Cards, and it reinvigorated my love for Kevin Spacey's acting ability, which is solely what I will be judging on when we do 7. So yes, fear not, dear listeners. Listen, I'm a huge Kevin Spacey fan. I love Kevin Spacey. I really wish he wasn't a sexual predator, but it's.
I thought you were going to say your dad was watching 13 Reasons.
Well, listen, that's in his queue. So anyway, that concludes this week's episode of Shat the Movies. Be sure to follow us on social media and share with a friend. We're everywhere, including Twitter, Snapchat, Instagram, Grindr, and we're on Grindr now too. Just search for @Shat the Movies. Facebook, just search for Shat the Movies podcast. Website is shatthemovies.com, where you can vote on our next movies. Our email where you if you want to suggest movies is hosts@shatthemovies.com. Again, hosts@shatthemovies.com. We're everywhere fine podcasts can be found, including iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, and YouTube. Be sure to subscribe. And if you stop by iTunes, please be sure to leave a 5-star review. That really helps the podcast grow. You can also check out our sister podcast, Shat on TV, where we review television series such as Westworld, Taboo, American Gods, and Game of Thrones. You can also check me out over at Show Spoilers, where we're reviewing Mr. Robot right now. You can follow me over there at on Twitter at all the spoilers. You can also check out Shat on TV's website, shatontv.com. One last thing here, guys, if I could, and you can cut this, Big D, if you want, but as independent podcasters, we rely on a neutral and level playing field when it comes to the internet. There's a legislation that's trying to be passed before the holiday season where they're trying to remove that safeguard, where they're trying to put a pay firewall up. And you may have heard it's called net neutrality. We are unable to compete with major podcasts that have corporate backing. If net neutrality is removed, there could be a situation where we would be unable to afford to publish our podcasts.
Yeah, or even just a bigger thing, and this isn't a political thing because I don't want us to ever talk politics.
It's both sides of the
correct. If you like Hulu and Netflix, you should be against it because both of them, when they were small companies, they would have been crushed because YouTube, Time Warner, they would have paid to slow them down. So I'll put a link in the show notes to explain what net neutrality is. It's not doing priority service for the internet. It's slowing other people down.
That's right.
It's the equivalent of airlines, Apple paying United Airlines to not fly Google employees to put them on their plane or to slow them down at the gate. So this isn't political, but this is something that will affect everybody. If you enjoy cord cutting and streaming your content online and having it be fast, man, you should be against this.
That's right. That's right. Again, we all three of us work in technology. We know how this shit works. But the biggest thing is for us as independent content creators, there could be a situation where it really does affect independent podcasts.
Not just us, any
podcast that you listen to. So tweet, call your congressman, call your representative. This isn't a political issue where you should play identity politics. This is a situation where you really need to if we all band together and we all write in, tweet your congressman, tweet your representative, we can kill this bill because it's like this. It's zombie legislation. It keeps coming up and up again, and there's a reason for it, and it's because the people who are behind this, the big money, do not have your best interests at heart. But it really helps us out, and it could really do us a solid. So please tweet save net neutrality, hashtag save net neutrality. Thank you so much, and like Big D said, he'll put it in the show notes.
Yeah, and politics kind of rips people apart, but we all love our data. We all love streaming internet.
Yeah, listen.
This is something everybody... Can you imagine if they decide to slow down your Pornhub? What are you going to do, Raj?
Not only that, but listen, they're gonna make you pay $15 more for porn access. Are you kidding me? Yeah, they'll do that.
Your budget's just blown right there.
I know. I'm not going to have any money to eat anymore. It's all going to go to porn.
You're going to have to go back to Reddit r not safe for work _gifs.
Listen, they're gonna. Here's the dangerous thing, and you want to play politics here? If you're on the right side of the aisle, imagine if the left side of the aisle was trying to control which information and trying to remove internet websites that you went to. Same thing on the left. It doesn't matter. No one should be telling you where or how you get your information,
or how you view your pornography,
or how you listen to podcasts.
Yeah.
So anyway, help us out. Hashtag save net neutrality.
Help yourself out.
That's right. Gene, you want to weigh in on this?
This is Gene Lyons, and I endorse this message.
Thanks so much for listening. We appreciate it. Take care. Good night, and good luck.
But it was sweet when they killed Ellis.